Okay, boys and girls, let's recap chapter 13. Everyone knows the king of the sea. So here we learned that Delphine was upset at Cecile because she didn't understand how she can change her name and start a new life without regrets of leaving Delphine and her sisters. Delphine gets teased at school because of her name. Delphine has always thought that Cecile gave her a name that was unique, that it was her own. However, she becomes upset when she finds it in the dictionary and it means dolphin. Um, in this chapter, we see how the Delphine continues to play the role of the mother for the girls. And it just connects and it just kind of builds on how Delphine is this type of character that is always looking out for her sisters. Okay, let's read our teaching point. Readers will pay attention to character traits, relationships, the point of view of the narrator, and possible themes, as well as any changes to the story elements. Coloring La La La, Chapter 14. The next morning, Vanetta Fern, clutching Miss Pattycake, and I left the green stucco house and went to the center, where we stood on line until the doors opened for breakfast because Cecile could not cook for us in her kitchen. While we ate hot oatmeal and sliced bananas, a truck from a local store pulled up and dropped off loaves of breads loaves of breads and crates and orange juice. Within minutes, the smell of toasted bread filled the center, and small cartons of orange juice were placed in our trays. The young white guys who delivered the bread and orange juice knew the Panthers. They stayed a while and chatted with them. I had my eyes on them the whole time, waiting for something to happen. I felt silly once I realized all I was watching was talking and laughing. So here, Delphine is surprised that the delivery guys and the Black Panthers got along. She was expecting more because of all the tension that surrounded these two groups, and she was expecting more. Okay, let's continue. When Sister Pat came around with a basket of toast, I grabbed two pieces, one for me and one for Fern. Vanetta, who was buddying up with one of the three sisters, could get her own toast. I wasn't at all the way that it wasn't all the way that television showed militants. That's what they call the Black Panthers, militants, who from the newspaper were angry fist wavers with their mouths open wide and their rifles ready for shooting. They never showed anyone like Sister Makumbu or Sister Pat passing out toast and teaching in classrooms. I started to think, this place is all right. I watched the white guys leave unharmed, laughing even. I couldn't wait to tell Big Ma all about it. Then I heard Crazy Kevin say, "That's the least that the racist dogs can do." And just like that, he spoiled what I thought I knew. When we entered the classroom, we found the chairs and tables had been pushed to one side of the room. In the middle of the floor were white posters covered with outlines of wavy paper. We stood on the edge of the room surrounding the posters, like we were on dry land and the posters were floating out to the sea. Sister Makumba motioned us in. "Sisters and brothers, can you find a poster to color in?" Can can, oh, sorry, boys and girls. You can work alone or you can work with a partner. I looked out to see the letters outlined in black marker said things like justice for all power to all of the people. Remember little Bobby, free Huey. I had seen Huey Newton on the evening news wearing his black beret and using his big words. Big Ma called him the main trouble starter because he was the leader of the Black Panthers. The only famous Bobby I knew was Bobby Kennedy. Even though Bobby Kennedy had been killed, I didn't think the Black Panthers wanted us to remember Bobby Kennedy. They were talking about another Bobby, a little Bobby, and I wonder if he had been killed like Bobby Kennedy. Why this? Why else would they want us to remember him if he were still alive? Sister Makumbu said, yesterday we learned revolution means change and that we can all be revolutionaries. So let me stop there, because here we see this idea again of change. We saw it earlier with Cecile wanting to change who she was, and now we see how Sister Makumba is teaching the kids about making change within their world. Let's continue. As she spoke, we stepped carefully between the posters, choosing one, then plopping down next to it. Sister Pat passed around a bucket of magic markers and crayons. Part of me felt like repeating Vanetta's words. We didn't come for the revolution. We came for breakfast. But part of me wanted to see what it was all about. That part reached into the bucket for a thick magic marker. Vanetta and Fern each took crayons. Fern took an extra crayon from Miss Patty Cake. I decided on the Free Huey poster since I didn't know who little Bobby was. Fern and I squatted down by our posters. Next to Fern sat Miss Patty Cake with her arms reaching out. I chose the right poster. Fern colors, small and snail-like. There was no need to grab the sign with a lot of letters since it would just be the two of us coloring. Instead of sticking with us, Vanetta ran over to the middle Anton girl. That was their last name, Antoinette, and began coloring with her and her younger sister. I couldn't say I was surprised. Then I heard the middle Anton girl say, "What's wrong with your little sister?" Vanetta tried to act like she hadn't heard and kept coloring the P in power. Why she run around with her dolly? Vanetta, who is loud and showy and crowy, had to swallow her words. She likes it. That's all. Vanetta now sounded low and small, and it served her right. I watched Fern move her crayon in a small black circles. I could hear her singing la 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 to herself. I recognized the tune. It was the la 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 part in the song that used to come on the radio. Brenda and the Tabulations sang Dry Your Eyes. My sister and I imagined they sang about a mother who had to leave her children. It was the only real indulgence we allowed ourselves to in missing having a mother. Brenda and the Tabulations, Vanetta, Fern, and I sang Dry Your Eyes whenever the disc jockey played it on WWRL. So I sang the la 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 part with Fern, making a nice wall around us to keep that laughing Anton girl on the outside. We all have our la la song, the thing we do when the world isn't singing a nice tune to us. We sing our own nice tune to drown out ugly. Fern and I colored and sang, but the middle Anton girl was determined to break through our la la wall. She had her own song and made sure we heard it. Your sister's a baby. Your sister is a baby. I expected Vanetta to do what we always do. Fight back, talk back, pick up her crayon, and scoot over near Fern and me. Vanetta sat in a small heap of herself, looking smaller and smaller, letting the Antoinette girls sing, Your sister's a baby, merrily, merrily, merrily. I stopped filling in Free Huey. I turned and said, Shut up, to Vanetta's friend. She stopped singing. That's all it took. And that made me angrier at Vanetta. She could have done that much for her own sister. So let's stop here. So now we see that there's this teasing of Fern. The Anton girls were teasing Fern, and Vanetta chose her friends instead of defending her sisters, and that caused that Delphine to be upset at Vanetta. Let's continue. The oldest Anton girl rose up from her just for all sign, said to me, You can't tell my sister to shut up. I gave her a full-out neck roll. I just did. It doesn't matter that she was almost as tall as I was and could have been a 7th grader. It was too late to take anything back if I wanted to. Sister Macumba was right there and ended it before it grew into anything to stop. She reminded us we had a greater cause to fight for than to fight with each other. Sister Eunice, Sister Delphine, shake hands. We begrudgingly shook hands, then returned to our posters. I felt some shame, but I wasn't about to worry. I was still too mad at Vanetta to be thoroughly ashamed. On the way home to Cecile's green stucco house, I said, You're supposed to stick up for Fern. Yeah, Fern said. Vanetta said, I'm tired of taking up for Fern. Fern said, just to have something to say back. I'm tired of taking up for you. Vanetta said, You don't take up for me. Do too, do not, too, not, I do too. Like when? When you broke the little blue teacup, I could have told. Big deal, Vanetta said. Then she added the Anton girls' word to let us know who she sided with. Big deal, baby. Fern banged her fist at her side and was set to leap on Vanetta, but I grabbed her in mid-jump. Y'all just stop it. Fern was near tears mad. I'm gonna tell. Who you gonna tell? Cecile? She don't care about a blue teacup. Big Mama? Papa? They're miles and miles away, and we don't have enough dimes. Who you gonna tell? I said, Shut up, Vanetta. And she shut up. And that's all it took. I had planned for us to kill time playing in the park until Cecile would let us in the house. But playing in the park meant playing together. Vanetta and Fern weren't ready to play together. I had to keep my sisters apart. So instead, we went to the library. Finetta read her book on one table, and Fern and I read Henry, and Ribsy on the next table. When we got to Cecile's, we put our things, including Miss Patty Cake, away in our room. I asked Cecile for some money for dinner. Fern and I went to pick up chop suey from Ming's. Vanetta did not want to go, she said, and that was fine with Fern and me. So we see this idea that family should stick up for one another, and Delphine is telling Vanetta that they need to defend each other, and Vanetta and Fern start bickering again on their way home, and Vanetta probably did not want to go because she felt bad, and she just felt angry at her sisters. Like, she doesn't want to be always defending Fern, right? So she's upset about that. When we came back from Lady Ming, who wasn't really so mean, but we had gotten used to calling her that. I kept 2 dimes from the change to save up for our phone call. I was sure we'd need at least $1 in change. Cecile wouldn't miss 2 dimes. If she asks for them, I'll give it to her. Although I didn't think she asked. We spread out the tablecloth on the floor and loaded our plates. I said the blessings and we ate. Vanetta suddenly became chatty Cathy all through dinner. I figured she had enough of being apart from Fern and me and was now glad we were all together. But it was too much chatty Cathy for Cecile, who told Vanetta to stop disturbing the silence and that quiet was a good thing. To that, Vanetta started humming that song on the radio that goes, "Silence is golden, but my eyes still see." Cecile couldn't figure out how Vanetta was hers. Before Cecile did something crazy, I gave Vanetta the look and she stopped humming. After dinner, we headed for our rooms while Cecile put everything away. For once, I didn't care that she wouldn't let us in the kitchen where her papers hung like wings. I didn't mind not having to wash dishes or mop the kitchen floor. This was the order that we entered the room. Fern first, me next, and Vanetta last. I should have known something was amiss by the way Vanetta lagged behind. Fern and I soon learned why. Chatty Cathy hadn't missed the company of her sisters. Chatty Cathy had been up to dirty tricks. A black magic marker laid on the floor, the same kind I used to color in Free Huey. Vanetta had gone over Miss Patty Cake with a black magic marker, leaving pink lips and pink rouge circle peeking out on a once white face. To tell the truth, Miss Patty Cake was never as white as the day Fern had got her. After enough biting, dragging around, and loving up, Miss Patty Cakes was off-white or light-skinned, as Fern would say. As it was, Miss Patty Cake was a long way from pinkish white herself. So here we realize that the reason why Vanetta was so chatty during dinner time was because she kind of got back at Fern and Delphine by coloring in the baby doll's face, right? Miss Patty Cake's face with a black magic marker. Fern screamed louder than she had screamed on the Coney Island Ferris wheel, louder and longer than she'd screamed when the dentist stuck her with a Novocaine needle. Fern's fists never made it into a ball. She screamed and threw her body into Vanetta like a missile flying into outer space. Vanetta and Fern fought all the time, but not like this. Cecile busted into the room and pulled them apart. That was the first time she touched either one of them. She turned to me. Why you let them fight like this? I didn't say anything. I just wanted her to come in here and act like a mother, a real one. Answer me, Delphine. I raised my shoulders up and set them back down. That was my answer. And you, Vanetta, what do you call this? She held up her black scrawled grandbaby to Vanetta's face. No wonder you couldn't stop lip flapping. To Fern, she said, You're too big for this anyway. But Cecile still didn't offer Fern a hug. She didn't bend down and wipe Fern's tears. She still didn't call Fern by her name. So now Delphine is acting a bit rebellious by stepping back and letting Cecile handle the problem between Fern and Vanetta. So we see that she's like kind of stepping back and letting Cecile handle this because she's the mom, not Delphine. And also by not answering, she shrugs her shoulders as a response to Cecile's questions. Delphine feels it is Cecile's job to prevent them from fighting and caring for them. So now, in this chapter, we learned that Vanetta didn't stick up for Fern when the Antin sisters were teasing her. Delphine, Vanetta, and Fern have an argument because Vanetta feels that she doesn't have to defend Fern. We also see that Vanetta gets back at Fern by coloring her doll face with a black magic marker. This causes Fern to react and fight with Vanetta, right? And then we still see that even though they're fighting, and as the parent, Cecile should say something to the girls, punish them, she doesn't. She doesn't discipline them. She just tells them something and leaves. She tells them why that they color the face and how could they do it. She doesn't really discipline the girls. In this chapter, the children continue to learn about the community leaders in there, in the center, and that kind of connects with what has been happening earlier. Okay, boys and girls, this is the end of chapter 14. Get ready for chapter 15.